This week's boot on Survivor 49 episode 10 was completely unexpected to me and a lot of other people out there. It completely shakes up my predictions for what I think is going to happen for the rest of this season. Every single week, I have been attempting to predict who will win this season by analyzing the way each and every character has been edited throughout the season at large. And now I have to think very deeply about what I think that exact order 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 will be as we move forward to the very end of Survivor 49. But first, if you don't know how Edgic works, basically Edgic is a system used to analyze the edit of every single person in an episode of Survivor or similar shows and give each person a very specific rating based on how they were edited in that episode, and then we plug all of those ratings into a chart that looks like this. There are 3 different parts to an Edgic rating. The first part is the type of edit, and there are a bunch of different types of edit that someone could get. It could be UTR, which stands for under the radar, which means you didn't see very much of them in that episode. It can be MOR, which stands for middle of the road, which means you saw a decent amount of them, but they weren't super fleshed out as a character. They can be CP, which stands for complex personality, which means you saw a good amount of them and they were pretty fleshed out as a character. Or it can be OTT, which stands for over the top, which means you saw way too much of them proportionally to what was needed. The second part of an Edgic rating is the tone of the edit. This is an extra letter added on to the end of the type in the square. It can be either a P for a positive leaning tone, an N for a negative leaning tone, an M for a mixed tone, which means there was a little bit of both of positive and negative leaning tones in the one episode, or there can be no extra letter tacked on at all, which means just a neutral tone, no tone. There wasn't anything really dragging you one way or the other. And finally, the number at the end of an Edgic rating is basically just a visibility scale from 1 to 5 on how much screen time that person got in the episode. 1 for they barely got any screen time at all. 5 for they got an absolute ton of screen time. And so here we are in episode 10, and we have lost Jawan, which I gotta be honest, I was pretty shocked about. That was definitely a surprising vote. I really felt like Jawan was one of the most safe people in the game going into this week. Not just strategically, but like edgically. I just felt like Jawan leaving was pretty crazy. I did have Carson on last week, and he influenced me to move Jawan all the way up to number 2 in my rankings. I'll say, if I were alone, I wouldn't have done that. But, you got to make compromises sometimes. And so for Jawan to leave, I think is pretty crazy here. I really felt like this was leading up towards a Sage boot. I predicted Sage to leave last week. I said either Sage or Kristina. It was kind of a toss-up. I really kind of felt like Sage was more likely than people were expecting, and I felt like a lot of the episode was really gearing up towards a Sage boot. Maybe an obvious Steven boot, which was like so obvious it wasn't obvious, But then Jawan goes, and man, that was very unexpected. Just last week, I said that I thought Jawan was giving me big 0-vote finalist or third place vibes, maybe even second place, depending on how things goes. But I really felt like third place. I was feeling pretty good about that, especially since I just lost Alex the week before, who I was predicting to be third place as well. And so now Jawan is gone right after Alex. I'm really thrown for a loop here a little bit on where things could go and how to analyze what we have left on the board here, because I think like the way that a lot of these people have been edited, there's not a lot of strong contenders, even for finalists at this point, let alone winners. But I just think we may be getting some unconventional endgame edits here this season. It's tough to say. But we'll get right into everything, and we'll figure that out when we get to the predictions section at the end of the video. But first, we have to talk about our fallen soldier, Jawan, and what his edit was like in memoriam and in this episode. I mean, Jawan had a pretty good edit. I mean, he definitely had some weird stuff going on early on. I gave him 3 over-the-top mixed tones, which is kind of absurd. I mean, over-the-top mixed is already kind of a strange rating to get. But then he really hit this hot streak where he was in pretty nice, complex personalities for quite a few episodes in a row here once we hit the merge. I really felt like he was really narrating a lot of what was going on the beach. And now he's gone in a surprising turn of events. I felt like he was really being set up for some longevity here. And I'm particularly sad that Jawan leaves because I felt like he was otherwise having a pretty good episode. I definitely think like the fishing scene I really enjoyed, and I was really thinking, I was like halfway through this episode, I was like, you know what? I'm really loving Jawan. He's such a nice like guy. He's just such a likable person. I'm happy that he's gonna get 3rd place. That's gonna be great. And then he gets voted out. I was so sure he was going all the way. I'm like, oh, I'm sad to like move on in the season without Jawan. I feel like there are people that I just have not like been endeared to by the edit. Again, this is based on the edit, but I feel like Jawan, they were endearing us so much to him. So for him to leave, I was very, very sad about that. I felt like especially like his moment where he was like, normally at home, when everyone's feeling down, I'd crack open some snacks, but we ain't got any snacks out here. You know, I was like, oh, this is so kind. Like, what a sweet fella. Yeah, I really enjoyed Jawan. I think he was a super fun character on this season. I think this was a pretty good episode still. I mean, he does get voted out because they're kind of worried about him flip-flopping, but even then, it wasn't as negative toned as it could have been. I mean, there definitely like was some like, I can't believe they're flipping, but again, I felt like the negativity was being thrown on Sage here, really. And Jawan was kind of like still being shown as a pretty like lovable, rootable character here. Gosh. I think I'd probably go complex personality. I definitely think he was pretty involved in this episode. Let's take a look at the confessional charts. Thanks to Just Strategic on Twitter for providing these. We have Jawan. Got 5 confessionals here. You know, middle ground seems about right. Or upper for this episode, honestly. I don't know. I want to go positive, but it's really tough to give someone a positive rating in their boot. I mean, the only person that's got that is Jake, who, as a matter of fact, it's very difficult to get a positive rating when you get voted out. But I do think this was the most complex boot we've had in a while. I feel like the past few boots have been pretty under-edited, honestly, in their boot episode. We can maybe go mixed on. I'm thinking maybe I grab this rating of the complex personality mixed 4. Because we did have, you know, Savannah and Rizo kind of being betrayed and talking. But honestly, I still feel like, I don't know. My gut is telling me give him the positive. My gut's telling me give him the positive. It's so rare for someone to get a positive, but I feel like that fishing scene particularly was so positive for Jawan. I'm trying to think, was there some like negativity in the sense that like he was kind of like getting things wrong? But I don't even think that's true, because he got it right with Steven, and he was kind of accurately being like, I don't know if I can trust Steven and whatnot. And it still felt like he was still reading things well. I don't think he was particularly painted as a dope this episode or as a villain. I think like it probably should give him the mixed, but I don't want to. I want to give him the positive. It's where my gut is, and I'm giving him the positive. What can I say? I felt like this was a fun episode for Jawan and a good way to send him out. One of the most appropriate, I think, boot episodes. In a way that, like, I feel like this was a good boot episode, and that it didn't feel like his boot episode because it was positive, right? It didn't feel like I wasn't like, oh, Jawan's got to be going at the end of this episode. In the way that, like, last week I was, you know, so sure that Alex was getting voted out based on the way the episode was going and how negative it was for him. This episode, I was still shocked by it, but I still felt like appropriate. Like, I wasn't like, oh, I didn't get enough Jawan in his boot episode. I still felt like I saw enough of him. I got what I wanted from him. He had some good moments in his final episode. So we'll go with a positive. Now we're jumping all the way up. Kristina has become the top of the totem pole in terms of alphabetical order. We've got a lot of S's left. Shannon got kicked out of the S squad. What's SS Club? Isn't that a thing? We got an S Club here. That's what it should be called. Kristina, though, in this episode, we'll take a look at her confessionals. 5 confessionals. Pretty good. I feel like she's pretty part of this episode. I think I want to give her, I've given her this before, I think I'm going to go with another over-the-top mixed, which I feel like, I don't remember if I really gave over-the-top mixed all that much at all last season. It's such a weird rating. But I've been feeling like there's been quite a few over-the-top mixed this season. I think with Kristina, obviously there was some positivity. She was kind of like showing her story a bit more. We heard, about her mom. And there was some positivity there. But there was also, I think, a lot of negativity in this episode for Kristina, kind of painting her as not knowing what's going on, or like trying to make these plans that aren't going to pan out, and people kind of seeing through her schemes, quote unquote, a little bit. So I definitely think mixed tone is appropriate. I think it was a little bit over the top in the way that, like, the moment at the challenge was edited, that it kind of felt like an over-the-top moment. You could maybe bump it down to a complex personality, but I'm going over-the-top mixed on it. Do I go all the way up to a 4? I mean, maybe, but I don't know if it didn't feel like it was that much. I mean, it didn't feel... I mean, she was pretty present. I mean, she's definitely who you remember from this episode. I don't know. I mean, there's people with 7s and 6s here. I kind of want to give her a 3, TBH. I don't know. We'll go 4 on it. I mean, she was pretty present. She definitely... No, I'm doing a 3. I'm doing a 3 because I'm thinking about, like, comparing her to some other people that I think I'll probably get 4s. I don't think anyone gets a 5 this episode. I don't think there was, like, too much. And so if I got to scale it based on what other people are probably going to get. So I'm going to give her a 3 for now. Rizo, I felt like this was his least episode he's had in a little bit, but still pretty good episode. We still hear about him talking about that he has the trio. He talked a lot about having the trio with Sophie and Savannah. He talked about being, like, sad about being hungry and whatever, which was a very interesting moment. He was crying over that. He talked about the flipping the vote. His confessionals here, he gets 4 confessionals. I do think that Rizo, I'm probably still going to give him a complex personality. I don't know if it really had much tone here for Rizo. I don't think that there was people really talking about Rizo nearly as much in this episode as the previous few episodes there have been. I think we're probably going a straight complex personality here. Complex personality 3. I think for Rizo. Feels appropriate to me. Yeah. We'll go with that for now. Sage. Weird episode for Sage. She is very kind of over the top painted to be trying to take out Savannah. It doesn't work. I kind of... Oh, gosh. I'm wondering if I go with the over the top here. I'll say this was a negative episode for Sage. I think absolutely. I don't really think there was... There was some positives, maybe. But, like, it really felt like she is trying to take a shot. It's not working. She's being really, like, fierce about it. And everything, like, crumbles down around her. Her number 1 gets voted out kind of because she wanted to flip. It's kind of what it felt like. It kind of felt like it was painting it as like her fault was how it felt to me. Because like Jawan wasn't even the reason why they were flipping, right? Sage was the one that deserved to get voted out and didn't. And that makes me think that this was a pretty negative episode for her. Was it an over-the-top negative or a complex personality negative? That's the question. I don't think it was enough to be over the top. I don't think she got like that much screen time. Let's take a look. She got 6 confessionals, which I mean, I guess is quite a bit. I'm not totally against the OTTN here for Sage. Yeah, honestly, F it. Let's do it. She had the hug with Jawan at the end. Let's do it. We haven't had many of these this season. Let's do it. Over the top negative is a fun rating. And let's give her a 4. I felt like she was pretty heavily involved in this episode. We saw a lot of her trying to scheme to take out Savannah and did not work. And that is why she gets the over the top negative 4. Speaking of Savannah, she's next on the list. Savannah, I think, had a similar episode to Sage. In terms of a lot of like Sage was negative, but Sage was spewing a lot of negativity towards Savannah this episode, which is not uncommon. I think like we could maybe be looking at a mixed tone, but I kind of want to give her a negative tone. But I still feel like there was some rootability there. I think we'll probably go in complex personality, but we're kind of low in the visibility. Savannah only gets 3 confessionals here. I'm not even totally against giving Savannah the 2, honestly, compared to most other people this episode. So, but I do think I think I still give it a complex personality. The question is it a complex personality 2 or sorry, complex personality negative, a complex personality mixed? Because I still felt like we kind of got some stuff. We saw her. I think it was a negative episode. The stuff that she was doing with Jawan, it was like at Tribal Council was so like kind of painting her as like villainous. The stuff she was doing with Kristina, where she was like being really abrasive with her, felt so villainous. There was like a little bit of positivity where like I still feel like she's got a weird edit, but I think I'm gonna go with the complex personality negative, and we'll give it a 2 just for the sake of balance, I guess. It could be a 3. Do we give it the 3? We'll go with the 2 for now. Just because I think there's not really going to be very many middle of the road ratings this week, so we'll stick with the 2 just to add a little bit of balance. Sophie, I think probably the least significant person this week, which is not great for her. I mean, she talks about at the beginning how she wants revenge, I think, on Steven. And she talks about how she has the knowledge is power and whether or not she's going to use it. And then she talks about in regard to Jawan versus Sage, she says in confessional how she thinks they should just let Sophie S decide and that she doesn't feel one way or another, which is good for her in some ways. She gets 4 confessionals, somehow more than Savannah, which is shocking to me. I don't know how that counted like that, because I'm definitely giving her the 2. I'm definitely giving her middle of the road. I think I'm just giving her a middle of the road 2 straight up. I felt like this was not that great of a week for her. I would say not, like there was good stuff there still, but she was not shining in the way that some of these other people were shining in this episode. Sophie with an E, though. Oh, what a great episode for Sophie with an E. I felt like really good stuff going on here. We saw a lot of strategy from her. She was painted as really being in the middle, making the decisive decisions. We saw multiple moments of her talking about like how she's happy to win the challenge because she's got her eyes on the prize and she's like looking towards the final tribal council and what she could do with that and whatnot. There was definitely a lot of complexity here from Sophie S. I'm definitely giving her a complex 4. The question is, do I give it a toneless or a positive? I don't think it's enough to be a positive because I think she was just kind of being strategic, but it wasn't like, oh, she has anything like amazing going on or that she's like doing this like incredible work. It was more just like she's in a good position. So I think I'm going to give her the complex personality 4 here, but it could be positive. It's bordering on a positive rating for Sophie because I think she was such a big standout this episode. This was really her episode to make her mark, I think. And, yeah, good stuff here from Sophie S. And finally, we have Steven. Steven had quite a bit this episode. Oh, I forgot to look at the confessionals for Sophie. Sophie got 6, as to be expected. Steven's going to get 7. So, Steven definitely was in this episode quite a bit. We saw a lot of talking about Steven. We could almost even go over the top on it because we had the moment, we had the boys in the bench moment, which he got to narrate. We had, which was like so unnecessary. We had so many people talking about Steven in very negative ways. I think I gave him an over-the-top mix last week. I might give it to him again. Either that or complex personality mixed. I think I might go over the top mixed. I'll give him a 4 though because it was more, I felt like there was more Steven in this episode than Kristina generally. He was in this episode quite a bit, but yeah, I mean the over the top is pushing it. It could just be a complex, but I mean that boys in the bench scene was wild, and there was so much talking about Steven. This big threat, we gotta get rid of him. It felt really kind of over the top, honestly. We didn't need that much Steven in this episode that we got. It's over the top in a different way than Kristina was over the top, but I think I still want to give him an over the top. Even though these ratings are different, they look the same, but they're pretty different. Yeah, I feel pretty decent about these ratings. Sophie S could be a positive, and some other people might be a mixed, but that's how I'm feeling this week in the ratings. And so let's get to the Contender Rankings. Here we are, week 10. Jawan eliminated. Jawan started pretty low in my rankings because he was getting a lot of content early on, but it was very negative, which was not great for him. But then he really started to slowly kind of move up. All the way up to last week where he got a really high point here, being one of only, Nate actually cracked, I didn't even know Nate cracked the top, so one of only 4 people that have cracked the top 2 all season, or 5 people, I guess. Okay, so it's not that impressive. 5 people have cracked whatever, but cracked the top 2, and so here we are ranking the 8 contenders that we have, or not 8, 7 contenders that we have left. Sorry. I mean, it's easy. Kristina's still in last. Kristina is never going to not be in last, I think. She's just, she's getting a little more content now in, like, kind of positive ways, but it's very mixed tone and like, negative. It's positive because she's just, like, a good person, right? And she has, like, good stuff going on. That's where her positivity comes from. But edit-wise, I feel like it's doing as much as it can to show how she's a good person and you should like her, but you're not supposed to root for her. You know, like she's messing stuff up. She's not making the right decisions. She is opposed to the main characters of the season that you have gotten to know way more than you've gotten to know any of these other people. Kristina is just not winning. It's my most, absolutely most confident. She's dead in the water. She has been for a long, long, long time. There's just no way. And, like, she doesn't even really get complex personality ratings. She really only gets over-the-top ratings or middle-of-the-road ratings or under the radar. And those are so bad. Like, that's not what you want. If you're going to get over-the-top, you got to have complex personality the other episodes. I just think that, like, over the top is really not that great of a rating. You want complex personality. That's the sweet spot. That's the zone you want to be in. And Kristina's never, like almost never in that zone. She's always on the extremes, which I just think is not that good for her edit. And I just think there's no way that she wins this season at all, really. So, sorry, Kristina. I think we're going to go... We're going to go with Steven next, I believe. Steven, I think, has more longevity than Kristina does, hypothetically. I think Steven is more of a contender, more possible to win, like, generally speaking. I just don't really think Steven wins. He's had a consistent edit in a way that, like, I don't think he's voted out next, but I just don't think it's an edit to win. I think, again, he's, like, opposed to the main characters. He has been just kind of all over the place in weird ways. I don't really think Steven can win. He's had some low visibility earlier on. His high visibility episodes are, like, weird and, like, show him in, like, kind of goofy ways. I think he's been shown to be very good strategically, but also a bit of a goofball. Kind of a similar edit to what Jawan was getting is kind of where Steven has started to become, I feel like. Which, I mean, hey, it didn't work out for Jawan, so I don't think it'll work out for Steven. I just think that other people have more narrative to a win than Steven does. I would say I'm less confident in having Steven this low than I have been before in previous weeks, but I think I have to leave Steven where he's at. Now, I am going to make a move here, which might shock some people. I'll defend it in a moment. But first, I'm taking Sage. In fact, Sage might even be below Steven. TBH. And I didn't even consider that until right now, and I have to think about it a moment. You know what? I was kind of apprehensive about putting Steven that low. Let's put Sage second last. That might be crazy, but I just think that this episode was so bad for Sage. I think that she is in a really rough spot. Again, I feel like kind of like the reason why Jawan, this lovable character, gets voted out is not because people voted her out, but because that Sage wanted to flip on them. I felt like this was a very negative episode for her in a lot of ways. She's opposed to the narrators of the season. She's kind of been really on a downslide ever since Shannon got voted out. I've said this, that she's not really had that great of a story for a while now. It's been slowly divulging, and the one time that she finally boosts back up in story and narrative and screen time, it's like super negative. And the whole story of the episode is Sage being like, we have to take out Savannah now. It's like the only way I can win this game. It's the only shot I'm going to get. And she misses the shot in a horrible fashion. Her number one gets voted out. It felt like an episode that Sage should have got voted out, and she didn't. But it still felt like that death nail and like, you've lost the game. Even though somehow you didn't get voted out, you've lost the game in this episode. And so, yeah, I think that she should be below Steven at this point. I think things are going really badly for Sage edit-wise, and she could have a big comeback, okay? I don't think that's impossible, but I just think that Sage, the narrative is getting sour, and Steven, I think, has more upside. He's been getting content he hasn't needed to get, which is more of an upside for him, whereas Sage, when she does pop up, it's never really in a good way anymore, so yeah, I don't think that Sage is winning. I think Steven is more likely. Which means, hey guys, Sophie S is getting bumped up to number 4. Now, is this bias? Yes. I'll admit it, okay? I'll admit it. I love Sophie S. She's my winner pick. She's one of my favorite people on the season right now. I think she's great. However, I will defend it. And I have a lot of points here that I want to use to defend why I think that Sophie S has more of a winning story than the three people below her. And there's a lot of negatives and there's a lot of like traps that you have to kind of like look past for this to make any sense. But I do think it is there, and I think it's better than some people giving her credit for. Yes, her pre-merge is very, 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 very bad. Okay? But I want to defend her story right now. And someone in the comments of one of my videos, shout out Kate, said that it inspired me to move Sophie up this far, and it made me think about it, and I was like, you know what? If I started watching the season at the merge, didn't watch the pre-merge at all, just started the merge and started doing Edgic since the merge only, I think Sophie would be my number one contender. She's had a great merge at it in a lot of ways. This episode, I think, was fantastic for her. She made the decisions. She was clearly painted again after a few episodes in a row as being very strategic, making moves that are improving her game, and not just moves that are improving her game, but moves where she is explicitly telling us in the camera, getting content of talking about wanting the $1 million, looking towards the prize, looking towards the end of the game, thinking about what she's going to do at Final Tribal Council. You know, she talks about how Final Tribal is like the Super Bowl, and she's like trying to get through all the football games to get to the Super Bowl. She has multiple moments in this episode talking about the money at the end. Those are great signs for a winner's edit typically. When people like are talking about, you know, winning, talking about getting the money, talking about, you know, being at the end of the game, all that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff you really look for. Like, oh, they might be here a while. This is someone that might be either winning the game or damn near winning the game, because like we're hearing them specifically be the person that's talking about going to the end. That's really good. Okay. I also think that, yes, she didn't get a lot of screen time in the pre-merge, but I'm going to try to reconcile why that might be. On one hand, I will say that I still figured out her narrative based on her pre-merge edit. Okay? Her narrative in the merge has largely been that the Hina people and that whole kind of general alliance mistreated her, didn't value her in the way that she should be valued, and is getting revenge on them and has jumped ship to the other side and is taking out their alliance, the like kind of core Hina alliance that she has felt mistreated her. I knew this, okay? I predicted this to happen long time ago. I said this way back in episode 2. I talked about how I made note of that scene where she was with MC and how she was like kind of on the outs. And it was like, maybe she could have like a waking up at some point. And then like when we kind of got to the merge, I predicted that this would be the story, because there was that moment with MC early on where that was set up that she was kind of on the bottom and she didn't like that and she wasn't approving of the majority alliance. And then there was the moment where she wanted to turn on Kristina I think that was the episode where Shannon got voted out maybe. And she was like, oh, I don't know. Oh, I kind of want to turn on Kristina, even though people think Nate's the easy vote. And I think that this has been a narrative that was set up in the pre-merge. I did read into it. I did predict it. So it's not like there wasn't anything there. It's not like there was no narrative, because I did forecast the narrative. I saw it. I got proof. Go back and watch the videos, right? And it's been happening. So clearly, although there wasn't a lot of screen time, the narrative was set up, okay? I also will say that her pre-merge, she was on the bottom, okay? She was on the bottom of original Hina. Probably was, it seems like she was going to get voted out first. At least that's what it was showing us. And maybe that was shielding. Typically in Edgic, there's the concept known as shielding, where if you're painting someone well, especially the winner of the season, if they have good moments, they highlight the moments. They get a lot of screen time. But if they have bad moments, if they're, you know, making the wrong move, they're on the bottom, they're doing something that's like not very good, whatever it is, then it's like, then their screen time is like diminished, right? It's like, we don't want you to remember them for the low moments. We only want you to remember for the high moments. So we shield them by showing them less in episodes where there's negative stuff going on for them. And I think that could be the case for Sophie S, both in that she was getting not very little screen time in the pre-merge when she was on the bottom and not in a good spot and whatnot. So could be like, you don't remember when she was doing bad. You only remember her in the merge when she was doing good. Also, it seems like generally she wasn't really all that well liked by her tribe. I don't really know what it was she was doing, but based on exit interviews we've seen, it seems like they really were not like big fans of her. I think that like MC kind of talks about like, yeah, people expected her to get voted out instead of MC because like she was kind of rubbing people the wrong way and was kind of on the outs. But we haven't really seen that much of like why people don't dislike her, which I think is good for her edit again in terms of potential shielding, where her flip felt very justified and it felt like you were supposed to kind of root for it as an audience member without really seeing all the negativity of what she was doing to be on the bottom or to be negatively painted by the other people on her tribe. And so maybe, again, just trying to paint her in a positive way. Do I really think she's going to win? No, I don't really think any of these bottom four people are going to win. There's a clear divide here between these four and the three on the top. But I do think that Sophie is at least tangentially connected to the alliance that you're supposed to be rooting for. Now, I think a big negative that I have from this week and last week for Sophie S is that we keep hearing Rizo specifically talk about the trio. That's Rizo, Sophie, and Savannah. That's the trio. And Sophie S is not part of that. That's not great for her, right? That they keep talking about them as a trio and Sophie S, not being connected to it, even though she is on their side, basically. But if they say the word trio, they say the word trio. That's hard to edit around, I think that's a negative for her, but I think being even tangentially connected to the main characters and rootable personalities of the season is better than being opposed to them and being the people you're supposed to root against. And so that's why I have Sophie S this high in my ratings. Is all of those reasons that I went way too long to defend. Maybe it's crackpot, and maybe it doesn't make sense, but it's where my gut's at right now with Sophie, and we'll see where it goes from here. Now, the top three, I'm a little conflicted because there's people that have more consistency, but also people that have more positives. I think I want to put Rizo third. I just think that like general consensus is not as high on Rizo as it is on the two people above him, which I think is fair. That's affecting me a little bit. I just think that Rizo just feels like someone that's a big threat, that's playing very well, but he's not actually going to win it all. I think that Rizo is in a really good spot right now, better than he's been for a lot of the season. And I do think he has a very high likelihood to potentially win this thing based on where things have been going. I do think you want to be heating up rather than cooling down. And Rizo and Sophie S have both been heating up, whereas other people have kind of been cooling down. Especially Sophie B, who it's really tough to put Sophie B above Rizo. And you know what? F it. We ball. Let's freaking mix it up. I'm going with my gut. I'm not doing what every other person on the Edgic subreddit is telling me to do. If you want their takes, go read Reddit. Rizo, you're bumping up to 2. I'm putting Sophie B at 3. Listen, I don't think this was a great week for Sophie B. It wasn't bad, but what I just said about the cooling down, you want to be heating up, not cooling down, and Sophie B has been consistently cooling down, which is not good. I think you want a good merge edit. A merge edit is way more important than a pre-merge edit, okay? Other than maybe a premiere. But, like, Sophie B had a great pre-merge, but, like, she's just been really not on a hot streak for quite a while, and I've been waiting for that kind of big bounce back, and it hasn't really happened. And again, like I said, I mean, she's like the least significant person in this episode. I don't love that for Sophie. And I do in my heart of hearts kind of think that she still very well could win this thing, but I'm just waiting for that episode that sells me on it. And I haven't had an episode that sells me on her in a while. Whereas Rizo has had a few pretty good episodes in a row. And I feel like he was still probably the most significant of the trio in this episode. And I think that's pretty good for him. And I also think his scene where he was kind of crying, talking about how hard Survivor is and how he's got to push through, that felt like a potential winner's narrative being built right there for Rizo in a way that I haven't gotten that kind of stuff from Sophie in a while. I think she does get consistent content strategically. We do keep getting reminded about things about her that are important, but Sophie, it's starting to feel like runner-up vibes to me for Sophie. I'm starting to feel like, is Sophie, this is a comparison I just thought of on the spot, is Sophie more like an Austin in Survivor 45, where it's like kind of talking a lot about like the alliance and talking a lot about like the trinkets and advantages that are out there, but not getting a lot of personal narrative or story as much as the other people in the alliance. And that's kind of where Sophie is starting to feel like to me, where she's not getting that upswing narrative in the way that Rizo and Savannah are kind of getting those upswing narratives. And so that's why she falls down to 3, I think, for me, below Rizo here, as tough as that is to say. And I'm leaving Savannah at the number 1 spot. She wasn't going to be last week if I wasn't influenced, but she is this week. I feel like, yes, it was a negative leaning episode for her, but she's used to those. She just gets so much screen time. She's such a focal character. She is painted as a big threat when she doesn't necessarily need to be. I compare Savannah to Rizo again, and Rizo, I think, is quite frankly a much better player than Savannah in a lot of ways. But Savannah is still continually feeling a little bit more important, given a little bit more credit than she needs to be in the alliance, when she's arguably probably the worst player in her trio at least. And I feel like that's just a big sign that like she is the one that ends up winning it because she feels so significant. She very well could be a villain that loses at the end or gets cut right at the last second. It's very possible. But again, I just feel like she's getting credit that she doesn't need. And so that's why she goes up to first place. Crazy rankings here this week. I'm not even going to... Normally every week I copy over the top 5. I'm not even going to do it. I'm just copying over the top 3 because the other 4 don't really matter that much. That's the 3. One of them is winning. Maybe one of those other people in a crazy ways. But also, I was going to say the thing on Steven is that like Steven has been highlighted as well. And like Steven, Sage, and Kristina have all been really highlighted in episodes where they do things badly. Whereas the other people have been highlighted in episodes where they've done things well. That is a big difference for me in terms of shielding versus highlighting the negatives. Anti-shielding. I don't know if there's like a term for it, but that's what I think of. So also I just like thought about this week. This is like coming way late in the episode, so no one might see this, but I just thought it was like, what if people that are on this season watch these videos? It's like, it's possible. Okay. I mean, like, I definitely think someone like Rizo is a huge super fan. Even like Sophie B, maybe. I could see them potentially watching these and watching my rankings. I know if I were on Survivor, I would be watching every freaking video I could find about the season. I'd be so amped up about it. So, hey, if you're out there, Rizo, Sophie, whoever, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. It means a lot. Probably can't say anything, contractually. But thanks for being here. I just wanted to get that message out there because I thought it'd be really funny. Please know, none of this is ever about. I'm not the gameplay guy, even. Okay, I'm critiquing the edit. I'm looking past the veil, looking at what the edit's all about. So don't get mad at me for like being poo-poo on your gameplay or anything. I'm being poo-poo on the way you're being edited as a character, not you as a person, not you as a player, as a character in an edit. That's my job. I like everyone left on the season, and a lot of the season. I think everyone has brought enjoyment. I get no quarrels with people. That's my message. And if you are on this season, or you're a past player, and you like Edgic, and you want to come on for a future season and do Edgic with me, hit me up. Okay, send me an email or put a comment. DM me on Twitter. That's probably the best way to do it, or Instagram. And then we'll beat the races. Anyways, with all that said, we'll get into the predictions for the future of the season. This is the hardest to predict I've had maybe all season, honestly. I feel like most weeks it's been pretty clear. Now, I was surprised to see Jawan go, but I still felt pretty in my resolve that someone from like that group, I thought it'd be Sage or Kristina. That was wrong. It ended up being Jawan, but I did think that I felt confident in who I thought would go, even though I was wrong, right? But this week, I'm really not confident in who's going out next week at all. I think it could be a lot of different people. It really could be anyone. I think ranking from least likely to go home next week to most likely, I don't think there's any way Savannah goes home next week. I'll stake my claim on that. I just think it would be wild for Savannah to go home next week based on the way she's been edited. I actually think Steven is second. I don't think Steven goes home next week. I thought Steven could go home this week or last week. I really thought he would go home last week. Didn't. Still here. I think he's here for a while. I think Steven is my new losing finalist prediction, okay? Which might be the new death nail for him. But with Jawan and Alex going, I think Steven is just the best option left I got for either second or third place finalist. Honestly, Sophie B is maybe even starting to give me third place, potentially. Typically you look at third place as someone that's really hot in the pre-merge and is like super important in the pre-merge and you really get endeared to them quickly, and then the merge they kind of fall off and disappear and they're not like that important. And that's kind of becoming Sophie B, honestly. So maybe Sophie B is third place and Steven is second place. And then either like Rizo or Savannah is the winner. That's possible too. Or you could flip Sophie B and Steven. But either way, those are my two losing finalist predictions right now, honestly. So I do think Sophie B is in kind of danger next week, though. I think Rizo I'd probably put third to least likely to go home. I think if he does go home, I think it's in sixth place. I don't think it's in seventh. It's not impossible, but just feels a little bit too soon for Rizo as like a big character, big threat. I probably put Sophie B next. I think it's, I think Sophie B is in kind of danger potentially next week, but I don't know. Strategically, I don't know how it happens. So we'll leave her there. Which leaves me on the other three. Sophie S, although she's highest on my rankings for contenders as she's ever been, I do think she's actually in a lot of danger next week, particularly because this season has proven to really like to explicitly telegraph to us who is going home next week in the Next Time on Survivor segment. And the Next Time on Survivor segment really made it seem like Sophie S is the one that's going home this coming week, which is not great for her. Also, I just think I could see it. I think voting on Sophie S is not a great move for a lot of people next week. I don't think it's that smart for the trio of the SSR to do that unless she turns on them first, and that's the only way they can survive, and then I could maybe see it. I do think we have seen kind of a consistent thing. If we're looking at like the track record, when someone is declared to be in the middle and deciding the votes, that's the person that has been getting voted out, right? Happened, Rizo declared that Alex was in the middle. Alex got voted out. Jawan, the previous week, talked a lot about how he's in the middle, and him and Sage are running the game because he's in the middle and deciding all the votes. Then Jawan goes home this week. Sophie, I think, this week felt pretty similar to me for Sophie as Jawan's week did last week, right? Like what Jawan's edit was in episode 9, I think is very similar to what Sophie's edit was in episode 10, which makes me think that Sophie could go home next based on that. However, I'm not going to predict it. I just can't. I do think that Sophie, again, we're seeing more about like longevity for her, talking about going towards the end. You got to go on something, which makes me think, I do think she's making a finale. I predicted her as 5th place a while ago. She could be a fire-making loser. I think both are very possible. I don't think she's losing finalist, but it's possible. We'll see if we get some crazy narrative. I don't think she goes home next, but I do think it's very possible based on certain trends we've seen so far this season specifically. Which brings me back to Sage and Kristina again to lock in as my pick for next week. It could be anything. It's really difficult to say. Kristina has just got to go. I don't know what to predict with her. I hate predicting her every week. And again, this is not negative on Kristina at all as a person, but just on her edit. Her edit is just so like there's just like there's no teeth there. I don't know what like place she could get. If she makes the finale, I think she's either gotta be, I don't know, she could be anything, honestly. But she's not, I don't think she's not getting top 2. Okay? She's not top 2. She does not even have that for 2nd place at all, I think. So she's got to go up before then. Sage, it definitely feels like it'd be a good time for Sage to go out, but I do think Sage would be a better 6th place candidate than Kristina would be. I think typically 6th place is a really big character, someone that is shown to be like really important. It's kind of like the thing that sets up the win for the winner, like in the episode right before the finale, the penultimate episode. And it's like, wow, they took out a big character. It's been the case with Q. It's been the case with Andy. It's been the case with, it was the case with Shaheen. It's been the case for many seasons, pretty much the whole new era. And so I think that could be Sage. Sage leaving sets up the win for maybe a Savannah or a Rizo or Sophie B. Kristina leaving doesn't really help anyone. I don't think Kristina gets 6th place. So I think I probably have to just predict Kristina goes home next time. It's the easy vote. Maybe Steven wins immunity and they decide to vote out Kristina. It's the best I got. I don't know. I don't feel that confident in it at all. Again, this is the least confident I felt probably all season. But just based on how people typically edited and other placements, I just think it makes more sense. If I had to predict the entire rest of the season right now, based on the edit, I'm going to go with Kristina in 7th. I think that Rizo or Sage are probably our top 2 6th place candidates. It could be Steven. Steven is close. I don't think it's Savannah. It could be, but I don't think it is. I don't think it's Kristina. And I don't think it's Sophie B. And I don't think it's Sophie S. I don't think any of those people are getting 6th place. I think it's one of those other 3 I said. I think. If I had to predict. F it, we ball. Let's go with Let's go with Sage, I guess, as 6th place. Now, I will say something I want to say about next week's vote that I forgot to say. If Sophie S does get voted out next week, the way they're trying to make it seem like she will, I think the 6th place vote is crazy AF. Sophie S leaving next week makes the final 6 vote absolutely bonkers. And anyone could go, and it would be absolutely crazy. So, I mean, it would be very entertaining. If Sophie S leaves next week, who knows? Because I think we're probably in a successful idol play, maybe even a rock draw. Crazy stuff going on at the final 6, I think. So, we'll see. I do think it could be Rizo, but I'm going to go with Sage. I think it makes the most sense based on if I'm predicting that Savannah's going to win, the way that Savannah wins is she takes out her enemy, Sage, at 6th place. That's kind of been tradition. Kyle needed to take out Shaheen at 6 to win. Rachel needed to take out Andy at 6 to win. This is, Dee needed to take out Drew at 6 to win. Marianne and Omer. Gabler didn't need to take out Cody, but Jesse needed to take out Cody for Gabler to win, right? Was kind of the narrative there. It's been the case almost every season in New Era, I think. And so I think that makes the most sense. Savannah needs to take out Sage to win at 6th place. And then we're gonna say Sophie S gets taken out at 5. And then Rizo loses fire making. I don't know, maybe to Steven or whoever, it doesn't really matter. At the final 4, Rizo goes out in 4. And then, honestly, it's toss-up between Steven and Sophie in the final 3. I'm going to say that Sophie B gets 3rd place. Maybe 1 vote, maybe none. And then Steven gets 2nd, and Savannah wins the game, being viewed as a huge threat the entire season and never taken out. And that is my prediction for the rest of the season. I'm not positive. I mean, there's a lot of different candidates of where this stuff could go. But that's where I'm at right now. I'm excited to see where we go from here. Next week, we will find out who our final 6 is. And I'll probably try to give some real crackdown predictions and deeper analysis as we get really close to the end of the season. But yeah, having fun with it. It's been fun in those latter aspects of the season. And that's pretty much all I've got. If you enjoy this content, make sure to press that subscribe button and click the bell to know whenever I upload a new video, make a new post. I will do this every week throughout the season. And I probably will do some stuff in the off-season. I said I was going to do stuff last off-season. I only did a couple videos because Australia versus the World came up kind of quick. But hopefully we'll do at least some stuff in the off-season. We'll see. And definitely we'll be back for 50. Obviously, will be a big thing. So make sure to subscribe for the rest of the season and for future content after that. And then, leave a comment in the comments below if you have any thoughts on any of my analysis or predictions in this episode, or what you think might happen in the future. I would love to hear it. If you agree or disagree with me, I'll have a conversation. And that's all I got. Thank you all. I had a fly right in front of my face as I'm about to do the outro. Goodness gracious. Thank you guys so much for watching. I have been North, and I will see you next time. Stay frosty, y'all.